trying to get. The Sun, I think, gets the prize for the best headline this morning. I'm only here for De Beers, 100 now, I think. We can go back to Jeremy, though, for the very latest.
We're breaking into that with some very big news. It's been reported here that George W. Bush is going to be the next president, the 43rd president of the United States. I'm seeing pictures now on monitors of people in Austin, Texas, who are celebrating in the streets because they have heard this result. We're joined now by our correspondent, Tom Carver, who's in Austin, Texas. What can you tell us, Tom?
Yep.
I don't think Tom can tell us anything.
Okay.
Yes, he can. Tom,
Thank
can
you
you hear
for
me
joining
down
me.
there?
As you can hear, a tremendous roar behind us. The state parliament of Texas is lit up. A few seconds ago, we had flashing up on the screen, Bush wins the presidency. A rather despondent crowd, very nervous crowd here, suddenly erupted into life. A very unexpected event because they had waited for so long. They had begun to give up hope. And now, as we see, it seems that Bush has won Florida by the smallest of margins, absolutely tiny, so small, but yet significant enough to allow him to win the presidency of the United States.
Okay, over now to our studio guests here. We're hearing that every American network, except ABC, is saying that George W. Bush has won the presidency. It clearly, though, is a very, very close race. And, you know, could the Democratic side be saying, hang on a second, we've got to count these votes a little bit more? Tony?
Well, I think it's perfectly possible, yes. I mean, this is precisely the kind of situation in which in Britain you would be asking for a recount, isn't it? And I would have thought almost certainly the Democrats in Florida are saying to themselves, look, we've got to be absolutely certain that that was indeed the outcome in Florida. It's interesting that we're taking this off the networks. The networks goofed earlier on, and I suspect there are going to be some arguments to come. I mean, I have a hunch, and I've had a hunch all along, or at least since the networks walked back from that idea that Gore had carried Florida. I've had a hunch that Bush would probably take it, but we're going to have to be, the Democrats are going to have to be certain.
ABC News is also now saying that George W. Bush is going to be the next president of the United States. We're going now live to Austin, Texas, where our correspondent Tom Carver is there watching the scenes of, I think, wild jubilation. Tom?
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm afraid the noise is just enormous here. I feel I'm being drowned out. A few moments ago, the crowd, which was getting very despondent, standing in a rainstorm, suddenly erupted into life when it flashed up on the screen that Bush had won the presidency. The crowd here had begun to thin out, to drift away, thinking that it was just too close, that it wasn't going to happen. And yet it seems, according to the networks at least, the unofficial result is that George Bush has taken Florida and therefore becomes the 43rd president of the United States. An astonishing result, so close, it's taken so long. It's now 7 hours since the Florida poll closed. It began in the evening when it seemed that Al Gore was going to win Florida and many of the other key states. That began to turn around as we heard from Bush advisors that they were confident the Republicans were doing much better on the ground than anyone was giving them credit for. And now it seems they were right. By the slimmest of margins, they have managed to take Florida and so win. And so we expect in a few minutes that George Bush will come out here and give his acceptance speech.
Tom, we also will have to wait as well for an official concession from Al Gore, will we not? Because in a race this close, they may be wondering about the count itself.
I'm sorry if that question was to me. Can you say it again?
Tom, I was just saying, if you can hear me, I know it's very noisy where you are, that maybe the Democrats are wondering whether or not they should ask for some kind of a recount here, because, of course, the result is very, very close.
I think, as I understand it, the Democrats are contemplating a recount. because a few moments ago there was only around 30,000 votes separating the two candidates, and there were still quite a number of absentee votes still to be counted. I was told a short time ago that the absentee votes would not be counted for another hour, and now, as you hear, the networks are giving an unofficial result. This is unofficial. This is the networks, the television networks' estimate of what has happened in Florida. It is not an official result, and so it could still be overturned officially and Florida given to Al Gore, which of course would give him the presidency.
Tom, we have to stress as well that the networks have been wrong once already tonight, haven't they?
That's right, they have indeed. Several times they've been wrong. They've been very chastened by it, a very humiliating turnaround early in the evening when they had to admit, having given Florida to Al Gore, they had to admit that they had got it wrong and that it was then too close to call. That's when the Republicans started coming out and saying, we've been following this race in Florida precinct by precinct, and we're getting much better returns on the ground than anyone is giving us credit for, and that's when it began to swing the Republican way. As a result, the networks then stopped calling the results on all the other states and then only did it as they were getting the results in. So in other words, they waited until they'd got 90 or 80% of the result before they declared a winner. That's what we've got here in Florida, about 96% of the result counted, and they are declaring George Bush the winner.
Okay, Tom Carver there in Austin, Texas. Scenes of a great deal of joy there. Thanks very much for joining us for the time being. Stay with us, though, because things are moving very fast now. Peter Snow is going to update us just exactly where we are.
Well, Jeremy, it does look as if the decisive moment has come. Here we have the states with the scores in states there, 30 for George Bush, Al Gore on 19. Florida, there's 97% of the precincts counted. There's a 50,000 vote gap between Gore and Bush. Gore is, in the general opinion of all the experts in the networks, we're taking it from them, we can only do that. They have decided now, and they're going to be very cautious about this, but they have made the decision that that Gore can't close that gap. We are awarding it to George Bush. There's the White House there. There are the 270 votes that any candidate needs to reach to win the presidency. Here they go now, and with that Florida vote, is George Bush going to make it? With that vital 25 electoral votes in Florida, he's through to 271. That will put him inside the White House, sitting in the Oval Office at that desk. Unless something goes very, very wrong with that Florida vote, we can confidently light up the fireworks now and say that George W. Bush is the 43rd president-elect of the United States of America. Back to you, Jeremy.